Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a Terran versus Zerg, a best of 5 series where in game number 1 we find ourselves on beautiful Persephone. Now spotting right here, I feel like I've done this exact same intro, even with like the beautiful Persephone part, like 7 times already. Even though the map is only, well, a couple weeks old. Playing right here with the blue Terran SCVs. Joined by the little polar bear on the main command center. You see the little mlem? I believe at least the polar bear sticking its tongue out is the mlem part of, well, Clem's username. His opponent, down in the bottom left, with the red Zerg drones. No clan decal, nothing exciting whatsoever. We have a Rouge. At the very least, that's how a lot of members of the StarCraft community spell his name. They spell it as Rouge. Which, if I was Rogue, that would bother me. To be fair, rogue is a bit of a weird word. I don't know what the origins of the word rogue are. But I don't think our Korean Zerg player was the very first one to use it. He could have gone with something else, you know? Anything else. Maybe like from the Middle Ages or something. To describe a rogue. He could have gone with assassin. That is spelled ass-in. I learned that at a very young age. Don't ask me why. Anyways, let's see. Command center on the low ground is gonna be coming up right here for the French Terran player. Building up to 400 minerals and bam. Beautiful. He could have gone by the name of Thief. Although the TH sound is a little difficult to pronounce. Third hatchery now coming up here as well. This sounds like a perfect question to ask an AI. Let me see. What are alternatives for the word, like a synonym, I guess, for the word rogue? There's many different options that AI could come up with. Scoundrel. That is sick. I like that. Charlatan, rascal, miscreant, maverick, rebel, outlier. Nonconformist. Okay, that's a garbage username for a StarCraft pro gamer. Many of these are still easy to typo, though. You could still easily, you know. Anyway, Reaper trying to go get a little bit of damage done. A real rascal, or scoundrel, or nonconformist, as some might say. Triple CC opener here from Clem. Factory is going to be added onto the reactor in just a moment to start pumping out those Hellions here 2 at a time. Could go for Cyclones. Bam, do it. Ah. You had the money for it. Would have been sick. Nobody ever makes Cyclones though, other than against Protoss in the early game. So funny, man. Like, Cyclones have gone through such a weird set of changes over the years. Probably the most changed unit in the last 10 years. What's really funny, though, is that when they last changed the Cyclone, they basically reverted it to the version that it was, like, 4 years prior to it. So we've gone around in a large circle when it comes to Cyclones, and now we only ever see 1 or 2 against Protoss, and every once in a while, I guess, ooh, against Zerg. Now, this is a 3.5-minute Roach Warren, which is really fast. I've seen this a little bit before lately. Was it Rogue at the time then as well? Who went for a really quick Roach Warren, and then just a ton of Roach Ravager production into a Link Flood. This is a build that was very popular a few years ago. I mean, it's a build that's been around for a long time, basically ever since Legacy of the Void. But it's lost a lot of popularity, mostly due to the fact that Terran players started going, exactly, triple CC Hellion Banshee. That's what we have right here from Clem. Now, if Terran's too aggressive on the positioning of those units, you can actually just straight up lose. Clem hasn't seen the Roach Warren, he doesn't know about the additional gas. This is going to be a very committed push by the South Korean Zerg, and this is a great way to start it off. But the Zerglings run into the natural expansion, go into the main base. This should prompt the Hellions to go back home. He's gonna try and deal with this with the reinforcements instead, but that's a great way to start this particular push. Did he see? Oh my god, Clem did not see the Roaches leave. Clem is dancing so hard here with the Queens. Dancing Queen. Young and he doesn't know. He doesn't know that the roaches have left through the left lane on the map. He's not going to find out about the roaches until they are pretty much all the way across. Overlord right there saw the two reinforcing Hellions as well. So Rogue decided to back up for a second. Is he going to bother morphing in any Ravagers? Maybe he'll do it right over here at the front. But this will be the first time that the Terran player sees that there is a mass amount of roaches on the other side of the map. Using the Ravager cocoons to draw the aggression away from the Banshee. Lovely attack right here by Rogue. I mean, this is going to deal a tremendous amount of damage. This will be very difficult for the Terran player to ultimately defend. Even if he should clean this all up, he's going to take so many SCV losses in the process. Yeah, already so many. I mean, it is triple CC. And obviously, Rogue doesn't have a ton of workers on the back of this. It's just that he's going to continuously flood the map. I mean, you still have to draw a lot of fire, though, right? Like, he had to pull out every trick to try and get this attack to work out reasonably well. I mean, that's so many SCVs dying. Yeah. I mean, this is still recoverable, because triple CC with mule production is fantastic. It's just that the aggression is not going to let go of. Rogue already has, by the way, a lair finishing. So he's going to try his very best to maybe make a transition to something else, but honestly, I don't think it's necessary. He could even build, I don't know, like he could go into an Overlord drop, sure. He could go into a NYDUS network. He could do many things. Clem is on what the kids call a little bit of copium right now. I mean, the Banshees are having a grand old time, though. More links do run into the base. Little drop alert. Okay. We're gonna ferry the queens across the map. He doesn't have the cloaking upgrade. No, he does have the cloaking upgrade, which is kind of funny because I don't think he's shown this to the Zerg at all. So this does mean that a queen full of, or an Overlord rather full of queens is not going to be quite enough. Overlord activating its engines. There we go. Accelerating through the first corner. You'd love to see it. Yeah, we're now transitioning towards just a full all-in. Overseer on the back of this as well. I love it. I mean, Clem knows that triple CC is very powerful against this sort of thing, right? But ultimately, yeah, more Zerglings run through, and the queens are just about to arrive. And I think the Overseer, it makes it pretty obvious as to what is actually happening here. Good targeting. SCVs are also falling. GG gets called. Rogue wins game number 1. Alrighty. Next up, we find ourselves on Amygdala. Game number 2 in his best of 5. Rogue, absolutely hitting it out of the park in game number 1 with a bit of a cheeky cheese. You know, that was technically the perfect setup for the Terran player to deal with that attack. I mean, obviously, the triple CC build is greedy, right? And that is probably the scariest push that Zerg players can go for. But Clem, he had all of the tools to deal with that attack. It's just that Rogue, he danced with those Hellions, right? The queens were shielding away all of the vision. And Clem didn't know that that attack was coming until it was already on the other side of the map. So just because you have all the right tools doesn't mean you're actually in the best position to then also defend. Cheeky game there. From the South Korean Zerg. But I kind of missed that attack. I really like that build. So it's become quite common, for example, for Terran players to be, I don't know, like they go for like quick Stimpack off of triple CC. Or they go like, I don't know, quick Liberator or whatever. There's a lot of easy builds, especially when it's like a Liberator follow-up. If it's like a triple Command Center, Hellion Liberator start, you cannot hold that Roach Ravager Link Flood. You can't do it. This is also one of the things I do like about Rogue. Rogue has been making a name for himself over the last half year or so for being a bit of a late-game TVZ monster. And he decides to cheese, right? He gets the game over with within a few minutes. And that is Rogue in a nutshell. It's what he's been doing for a long time. And it's fun to see. Okay, now, honestly not a bad game though from Clem. I think the micro was on point. I think the macro looked really solid. Overall, that is a loss, but not really one that you can be too tilted by. It's an uncommon strategy from Zerg players in 2025. It's a little bit strange to go for, and maybe it's something you have to take into consideration, but technically you did, well, other than division, right? You did all the right things. Don't get me wrong, though. In a series between these two, even though Rogue is considered to be quite good in ZVT, he is, in my mind, at the very least, certainly not the favorite. Clem is just so freaking good in every matchup. I'm actually going to have a quick look at Aligalek. Is his Terran versus Zerg still his best? Because it was for quite a while. Aligalek basically also assigns a rating to each of the pro gamers' matchups. Yes. So his versus Zerg is significantly better than his versus Terran and versus Protoss. And I think you've seen how many times he's won in Terran versus Protoss over the last couple of months. I've casted many of those games. If I were to make a guess, the majority of his losses are against Hero. And Hero is a very tricky player. So the rating that Aligalek gives Serals, Zerg versus Terran, is 3,867. So this is the rating that they give Serals versus Terran. And then Clem's versus Zerg is 3,859. Which is kind of funny, man. Like, these two playing a best of whatever against each other. This is why there's constant fireworks when we have Clem going up against Serral. It is by far the two highest ratings in the entire game for a specific matchup. It's not even close. Like, for example, Dark's Zerg versus Zerg right now is at 3,088. I mean, those numbers are obviously arbitrary, but as a bit of perspective, it's pretty clear that Clem doesn't really lose against Zerg, and Serral doesn't really lose against Terran. Well, no Serral in this particular game. Hopefully I'm going to be able to cast some more Serral games in the near future. It's been a little bit since I've actually got to see Serral in any games. I know he recently participated in the Pigsty tournament. I haven't seen those games yet. Usually, Pig gives out those replays, or he sends out the replays on Patreon, I believe, a month or so after the tournament wraps up. So I'll have a look at those as soon as they're available. Rogue has decided to not go for Roaches this time around at all. We're going straight 1-1 with a Hydralisk follow-up. So this is Hydralisks, Zerglings, and Banelings. Clem finally gets to build up his economy, and he is actually going for an 8-Rex. Huh. 8-Rex, 3 Command Center. That is a little bit odd, especially for Clem. This is something that some Terran players absolutely love. Clem is very much so somebody who adds on a 4th Command Center before going into Barracks 6, 7, and 8. So usually Terran players build barracks in waves. They make 1 initially, then they make 3, then they make 5, and then they make 8 in total. And usually you make the final 3 after building the 4th Command Center. If you build it before making the 4th Command Center, it basically means you are going for an all-in. He didn't build any add-ons on these barracks either, so this is a Terran player who's in a hurry. Now, sadly for him, he did delay his 2-2 a little bit. His armory was not quite as sharply timed as it should be. This is on a timer, however, because lurkers will halt this. At this point, though, no lurkers yet. Rogue is gonna have to defend this attack with pure Hydraling Bane, and he decides to give up. Okay, he decides to give up on this base altogether, it seems. Or at least he's faking that. He's building another hatch on the left side, so I don't mind this, honestly, because this is a super finicky spot. Maybe he can make a few Vipers when the Hive is done. Couple Vipers, get some Blinding Clouds out. Lurker Den is here. Scan, by the way, did reveal that the golden minerals are not yet mined. Yeah, Vipers makes a lot of sense. 4th Command Center makes a lot of sense, too. Okay. So Clem showed down, or he slowed down his own economy. Rogue also said, okay, if that's what you want to do, I will slow down mine as well. I'll let you kill one of these bases. But we'll play a long game, regardless of what you want, buddy. Well, Clem still has all of these units. May as well try and see if we can get some work done with them. Lurker Dendo is upgrading now. Would have been very tempting for Rogue to try and jump it. Yeah, and look at the spread here. That hatchery is not going to live. No cancel. Great multitasking here by Clem. But Clem is now sort of stuck at the beginning of the late game on a very mid-gamey army. He's now facing lurkers with pure marine medevac. Which is... yeah. That's how everybody feels about that, right? It's like, yeah, I don't know, buddy. Maybe. Ooh, blinding cloud there, very ambitious. I don't really know where we're going with that one. I guess some of these units have been sent towards the back of the mineral line. I love the abduction there. That siege tank is easily gonna get picked off, and excellent defense here by Rogue. Clem decides to now go into a Ghost Academy. 4th Command Center is finally done, 10 minutes into the game. Lingbane run by? Oh, he was already hunting for the probes, or the SCVs rather. Rogue wanted to deal damage here to the economy of the Terran, and then finds out that the economy of the Terran wasn't even set up yet. Adrenal Glands coming up. +2 melee. I would love to see +2 missile as well. +3 armor. Yeah, not a bad idea. Yeah, you can't really fight lurkers here with pure marine. I mean, you can try. It is just not a very good choice most of the time. And this is kind of funky. Most of the time in this matchup in modern StarCraft, we see Terran players trying to play the macro game and Zerg players trying to avoid the macro game. At least that's the general vibe. So usually Zergs are a little bit more aggressive to try to not get the game to go to distance. And then vice versa, Terrans are sitting back, taking a bit of a beating. Now it's Clem who's trying to get the game to not go to distance, and Rogue, who's like, no, let's play macro. Double NYDUS Worm coming up. Overseer production has begun. We have 8 of them. It's not a whole lot yet, at least not for Rogue's sake. He can build up to 50. Abduction. Yoink. Nicely done there by the Zerg. Push over here, but it's still pure marine. As long as there's no ghosts in the mix, those marines are not going to be able to do much more other than clear overlords, maybe a creep tumor or 2. Rogue decides to reposition them just for the memes. No, actually, where are we going? You went very far forward. Okay, where do we go, though, with 9 more overseers coming up? Where do we go, though, with those NYDUS worms? Rogue has not really got a lot of urgency in his play, which is very funny. Like, most of the time, Zerg players at this level, they are... It almost feels a bit desperate, but he's just chilling. Look, 11 additional OVs coming up. We are doing mass Overseer, mass Changeling, mass NYDUS Worm. We're massing all the things. Now, Clem, in the past, when he first played against this, about a half year ago or so at this point, he did do a bit of a keyboard slam. I think that's the first time I've seen Clem get that angry about a game. But he played a game on camera, and after he lost to this threat, he typed GG, left the match, and then did like a full fist to the keyboard on camera. Which, not a great look, first and foremost, although, you know, I kind of love the emotions. A lot of people are like, oh, that's disrespectful. Oh. I don't care. It's nice to see a little bit of emotion coming out of a player sometimes, but it's pretty apparent to me that Clem hates playing against this stuff. Maybe that's also the reason why he's playing in the way that he is so far in these games. Rogue may just be sort of in his head. Well, whether he wants it or not, we're playing against it now. The Mass Command Center style is cooking up. High-sec auto-tracking, building armor, ghost cloaking. We're doing all of the stuff that Terrans like to do in the late game. And I can guarantee you that this is something that, since Serral is... I would say that Clem is definitely Serral's main nemesis. I think this is something Serral may just also be picking up on. There's a good chance, actually, that Serral is analyzing these exact replays that we're having a look at right now, because there's a good shot that he will be facing Clem again in the future, in some tournament grand finals. Nobody would be surprised by that. If this is what the man hates... I mean, I'm not saying you should do what opponents hate to do, but I'm also not saying that. Okay, still though, Clem is an absolute late game monster. NYDUS worms starting to slip through the cracks. This is why those changelings are so dangerous. It's not easy for the Terran player to see. He accidentally made a Reaper. Fair enough. Lurker is going to be tiptoeing forward through the middle of the map. NYDUS worm does get the Knight though, and of course those are not free. Rogue is starting to gobble up about half of the resources on the map now. Ooh. It's so wild to me, man, how Rogue is still the only one that plays like this. Apparently, Raynor recently said that he really does not like playing against Terran. I don't really know exactly what his specific struggles are against Terran, but... look at it. We're going more Ovies. 11 additional Overseers are morphing in. We are soon arriving at the 50 Overseer count again. We have some Evo chambers in the middle of the map. This is going to be for the Viper to consume. And this is still a very uncommon style at the highest level. It's still only Rogue that plays this, but it looks incredibly oppressive to me. So the idea, in case you've never seen this before, is to make Mass Overseer, which grants supply, so it doesn't really cost you a whole lot. And then you start sending changelings through. And normally, there's only a handful of changelings, so Terrans can actually spot them pretty easily. But at some point, right, since these units do not show up as red dots on the minimap for Clem, changelings are gonna slip through the cracks, and when the floodgates have been opened with a NYDUS worm, it is so freaking hard for Terran to deal with it. Because now suddenly we're playing NYDUS Whack-A-Mole. He's dealt with the army at the front, but even though this is about the 4th attempt that we have a NYDUS worm in the main base, this time around it starts to look like it will be successful. It's only a handful of Zerglings though, you never know exactly how many units are gonna pop out. He's sending in the Lurkers now too. And this is hell for Terrans. Normally they can deal with this quite well, but this is mostly an APM intensive defense. So even though you can clean this up as Terran, it's super annoying. And obviously there's still just gonna be wave after wave after wave of changeling going through. The screen can actually be covered by Overseers, which is also extremely frustrating. Okay, now that the Terran army is finally dedicated to the main base, Rogue slips out once again. And in the meantime, Rogue is trying to harvest half of the map. How in the world do you expend as a Terran player when you go up against this particular style? I don't know. It's very hard. You basically have to deal with... look at this. How do you know what you're sniping with anything when there's Overseers covering the map? 11 additional Lurkers coming up. 2 Spires are morphing in. Rogue will make a transition if he needs to Infestors and Brute Lords. But that is still a long ways off. He doesn't do that until like minute 30. It's critical for Clem to get another base up. He cannot let one of those bases get mined by the Zerg. It's the same for this base over here. He needs to mine his 50% of the map. Because if he doesn't, he's gonna fall behind eventually. The trades will be cost efficient, but the middle base over here is hard. NYDUS worm in the back of the main. This expansion over here, I think, may have been unscouted by Rogue. Although he's certainly heading on over in that direction. And he is so close to finding out about that new expansion. NYDUS worm all the way in the far top right. We have a NYDUS worm inside of the natural expansion too. Zerglings do indeed spot this base. Clem has officially now been contained, right? Like, it's so difficult for him to break out. This base has not been mining for a while. There's a Lurker over here being an absolute nuisance. And you can see that despite the fact that Clem is one of the fastest players in the game, nearly 500 average actions per minute, he cannot find the APM to actually deal with all of this. He's still doing as good a job as he can reasonably do, though, but now the rest of the Zerg army is in the bottom right-hand corner. That base is not going to happen. Lurkers are working on a command center over here, too. The rest of the Terran army. Oh, my God. I mean, I don't have a keyboard slam this time around for you, but that is a lot of resources to be tapping out of the game with. Clem lost so much of his economy there. Lots of SCVs ended up going down. And well, obviously, we just in general saw the Terran take an absolute nosedive when it came to the supply count. But I think a lot of that was also that Clem was getting a bit overeager. He's like, why won't you just... and then he just attack move with whatever he had. Not really the way to engage against that type of army. And I guess when your entire natural is flooded with lurkers, sure, you may have a lot of resources in the bank, but what in the world are you going to spend them on? You're not even going to be able to easily leave your own main base. And in the meantime, Rogue was sniping expansions on the flank. I mean, it's a banger strategy. I love it. I think it's very good. I'm honestly inclined to say that it might be too good. I wonder if we should see a Overseer nerf. Now, it's way too early for that. But there is a really good chance that in like 2 years from now, we're going to look back at these styles and we're like, yo, this is... How did we ever think that the Overseer was fine? Like, how did we ever... How did we ever think that the Overseer was actually okay in the way that it was for the first 17 years of StarCraft 2's life? Seriously, though, it feels like in theory, it's a broken unit. Anyway, now we find ourselves on Ultra Love. It's honestly just another form of free unit design. Right? Like, that's ultimately what it is. That's why the Infestor lost its Infested Terran ability. That's why the Brute Lord is nowadays the way that it is. That's why the Swarm Host is nowadays the way that it is. Free unit design is practically impossible to balance. Overseers, yeah, they're a form of free unit design. It's just a bunch of energy. Now, obviously, the units don't deal damage, but they severely mess up the pathing. And they ultimately enable the mass NYDUS worms. It's very fun. I think it's very cool. I'm hoping we're gonna see this for a lot longer. But because none of the other top-level Zergs play this style, I still am a little hesitant to call it too good, if that makes sense. Because I feel like it has all the signs of being too good. But none of the other top-level Zergs play it. And because of that, I'm beginning to believe at the very least that it's maybe not as great as it. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's pretty clear to me that the #1 Terran that is going up against Zergs in the world, aka Clem, struggles against the strategy quite a bit. I'm not suggesting, though, that we should get a balance patch for that. It's way too early. Oh, aliens driving very deep. Okay. Now, I think these are the type of strategies that we should let cook for a while. In general, in StarCraft, we've had strategies that are considered to be oppressive. But then ultimately, as players are more and more used to it, they will figure out a way to deal with it. And I think that's the beauty of the game. Jumping immediately to changes, balance-wise, I think is... It takes some of the beauty of StarCraft away. Especially since Terrans across the board seem to be pretty dang good against Zerg. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Oh, this is a mistake. Overseer way too far forward. Or, that's not an Overseer. That's a Banshee. Overseer way too far back. If it would have been close, then that Banshee would have died. It's so funny, though, how, like, Rogue at some point is like, yo, I have 20 Overseers. You know what I need? 50 Overseers. Make more Overlords. Maybe Elazer was onto something all this time, dude. Elazer was always known to overmake Overlords. He would make, like, 30, 45, whatever. He would constantly make them. He finally fixed it last time I've seen, but now he's, now maybe you need to be overmaking Overlords. Oh well. It is what it is. 1-1 coming up here for Rogue once more. Hydra then once more. Rogue is settling into a very similar game as the previous one. Clem's gone for the second factory. I'm expecting we're gonna go into another command center in a moment. Could go into barracks 6, 7, and 8 again, though. Keep in mind that Clem went for an 8 Rex, which is just not a style he generally plays a lot. Little Baneling roll by, I think. Could be. And we have little Baneling pockets, or at least Zerglings for now, set up. Now this is good. No cancel. That cancel is quite sloppy. That's the second time now we've seen a CC, or a Zerg CC, early on. Not get cancelled in time. Good transfuses there. Ultimately, Brenda does fall. There's the Infestation Pit once more. Little Baneling group. Okay. Wall off there. Immediately countered. What about the Baneling group over here? Yeah, buddy. Just Jimmy was caught in the splash there, but none of this is going particularly well. Clem now leading this game with a significant amount of supply. Push over here. Banelings over here. Excellent defense here by Clem. He did already go for a 4th command center, by the way. So barracks 6, 7, and 8 will probably begin in a moment. +2/+2 is started up. Yeah, Clem also setting up for a macro game, but this is a much more comfortable position than the previous one. Ironically, if he would have gone for an 8 Rex here, I think he would win the game with it. Now, obviously, he committed for the 4th command center. He committed to this thing before he knew that he was going to be able to clean up that aggression so easily and before the drops started piling on some pressure. He's taken a very long way around to go all the way towards the top left hatch. Since he's been denying this base over and over and over again, it's quite difficult for Zerg to actually expand now. The alternative is the base over here, but if he would snipe an expansion now from the Zerg, that would be the end of this Zerg macro game. So, big Zergling run by in the meantime, not going to happen. What about a push over to that base? Maybe he can put in some work. There's a ton of Banelings available at home too, though. Jimmy and his pals are running through the cracks. Lots of SCVs are dying. Banelings apparently have detonated right there on top of the army. What about this push here from Clem at the front? Oh, no micro. Hello. I think he's busy trying to control those units at home. Uncharacteristic mistake here from Clem. He's trying to power up the multitasking. That is usually where he shines. But that was not it. Rogue stays on top of everything. He dealt a ton of damage on the other side of the map. He cleaned up that push over here at home too. And now he got rid of the drop inside of the main. Excellent play there by the South Korean Zerg. Now suddenly the supply count is looking way nicer. Hatchery once more attempted over here. Lurkers are coming. Macro hatch inside of the main base too. Adrenal glands will likely not be too far behind. Can we cancel the hatch this time around, please? No? Oh, we did. Okay. Looked to me like it was going to die again. No Overseer in proximity, though, so there's no way for these Widow Mines to get detected. Drop over here gets cleaned up. Okay. Do we go for the Mass Command Center? Not a bad idea, to be honest. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 are done. We have now got 8 of them in total. Ghost Academy is building up. He knows that Lurkers are going to be hitting the battlefield real soon. Rogue, by the way, doesn't have to play that slow approach, right? He can go for something a little bit more aggressive if he wants to. But he seems to be happy being a punching bag. Oh, those Widow Mines. Okay. That could have been an absolute disaster, actually. Those Widow Mines could have dealt way more friendly fire. But ultimately, the Lings and the Bane still had a good time. Oh. Oh, pain. Pain. Okay. There's Adrenal Glands. And now it's up to Rogue to be the aggressor. And this is scary, man. The Ghosts are quite late. The Lurkers are already in a good position now. They decide to burrow over here at this, like, low-ground intersection. And that means that the third base is in a world of trouble. Clem is not going to be able to retreat any of the units here or really sustain any of these structures if it's up to the Zerg. I think he can easily clean all of this up. Now, there is, in the meantime, a medevac drop on the other side of the map. Hatchery finally falls, but now that expansion that Rogue has been trying to take for a while, it's done. So he can actually send the troops on in that direction and continue mining just fine. Looks like we're stemming through the spine field here. Most of the Marines have been killed by the Lurkers, but at least he's created space over here for his army to move on over towards the third. What about that drop? Wow, Clem not feeling it whatsoever because he knows where this game is going to head to next. Before you know it, the Lurkers, well, they double down on your side of the map. They will go into that Overseer shenanigans. The double NYDUS worm gets planted down. Rook is going to take his half of the map. We get a repeat of the previous game, except from a very significant deficit. And that means that Rogue obtains the victory over Clem, 3-0. GG.